Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the 2023-24 NBA season with Doc and Caveman. Dr. Fantasy here, as always, with my co-host, the Fantasy Caveman. Got a lot of news to jump into this week, but before we do, Caveman, what's new? How you feeling about this week?
Yeah, I mean, I I thought, and I think me and you probably both thought initially that it was gonna be a slower week. There wasn't gonna be like a ton of news, but some stuff has happened. Some interesting stuff that I'm really excited to get into. So ready to get to it.
Yeah, and there sometimes seems to be a lull in the season, but when you start thinking about the All-Star game coming up, you have kind of that mid-season trade deadline point where you can start talking about trade deadline targets. So there's more than you think to talk about this time of year. So, first on our list here, the All-Star voting initial results came out. Voting
Mm-hmm.
ends on January 20th, I believe. So as we're recording this, still got a few more days until voting closes. But
Mm-hmm.
looking over the initial list here, anything that surprised you or any thoughts on the All-Star game this year?
Yeah. I mean, I having the list right in front of me too. I mean, no shocker that freaking Giannis and LeBron are the leading uh vote getters for like the eighth year in a row. It seems like. Uh, so I mean that was interesting, but brought up the All Star game specifically because I wanted to get your thoughts on them. They're finally. I don't know why they did it to begin with. They're moving away from the captains picking their teams, and they're going back to the traditional East-West format.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, I like it. I like the idea of going back to the East-West format. Now, the only positive thing that came out of the picking the captains was if you remember that draft a couple years back when Giannis and LeBron were picking their teams, and it came down to Rudy Gobert and James Harden, and Giannis was like, "I want someone who will pass me, who can pass the ball," and he went with, and he picked Rudy Gobert. He picked Rudy Gobert. I mean, that was the highlight of the past couple years, but yeah, I mean, I think, and Adam Silver touched on this in an interview like a week or so ago or something. He was like, he thinks that going back to this format combined with a couple of changes now for like a lot of us, the All Star Weekend is like an entertainment,
Mhm.
aspect. There's so many entertainment aspects to it. You got the crazy player introductions. There's always a concert. Was it J Cole last year?
I believe so, yeah.
I think it was J Cole last year. It seems like they're gonna cut those back this year. They're not gonna have really crazy introductions. I don't know if there's gonna still be a concert or whatnot, but Adam Silver said, and I want to get your thoughts on this, that he wants the players to get into a like more of a normal pregame routine. If you got all the player introductions in the concert, you basically got the players just standing around for what 40, like they're not really getting into that pregame routine. And if they have any hope of it being like somewhat competitive and actually a game, you got to allow the players to kind of go through what they would normally go through if they were playing an actual game. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about that, and I don't think Adam Silver. Well, Adam Silver can say that he does, but NBA All Star Weekend is not about the player. Sorry, it's about the fans and engaging and creating an experience for the fans. So if players have to get out of their routine a little bit to cater to the fans that allow them to make as much money as they do playing basketball, I don't have a problem with that at all. I am actually surprised they're going back to the East-West format, and I'm curious to see how the transition goes. I liked the idea of doing the draft just because it added to the weekend, right? It's just when we're talking
Mhm.
about bells and whistles and fireworks, it was just another way to create an event and create some excitement around the weekend. But I don't think it created as much excitement as they wanted. I think one of the cool things would have been if they picked the teams right before the game, almost like a pickup game where you had all the all-stars lined up and they
Mhm.
were picking their teams like live right before the game. So I think there's different ways they could have done it to make it a little more exciting. Like even the one year, I don't know if you remember the one year they did the one-on-one tournament, which I don't think became a staple. I loved seeing events like this. I think the bigger concern with the All-Star game is not necessarily the format like this, but it's how do you incentivize the players to actually go out there and try, and we saw what happened with the in-season tournament when you put some money on the line. So I
Mhm.
would love to see some sort of incentive for the winning team where it's $1 million a play. And I know these guys are usually higher salary, but you're telling me if there's $1 million on the line for each player and the losing team got nothing, that guys wouldn't have a little more pep in their step? I fail to believe that. So I'd love to see.
Mhm.
That would be my bigger concern if I was Adam Silver, is finding ways to not only engage fans, which he's always actively trying to do that, which I respect. And he's also willing to say when something's not working, which I think he's saying with the
Mhm.
draft. But I think that's the bigger concern. Figure out how you can engage fans, and then B, how can we get the players to
Yeah.
play harder on the court? Because we have the greatest
That's
players
the
on
thing.
the
Yep.
entire planet on the same court at the
Mhm.
same time. And if you're watching this game, it doesn't seem like you have the best players in the world on the court because they're not playing defense. They're not always, it's just a few dribbles past half court and they're chucking up long threes. And to me, it's a horrible
Damn it,
game to
Steph.
watch. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you hit on it. It's about how are you gonna make this game competitive and feel more like an actual game and not like some Harlem Globetrotters type stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's what it is.
That's basically. But I think, uh, you know, whether this is what he truly believes or not, uh, that's why I brought up the point of Silver saying he talked to the players or the players association, and he I guess the sense is that if the players had a more traditional routine, it could make the game itself more competitive. But
Doubt it.
I mean, I doubt it. But that's at least that's what he was saying in the interview. So we'll see. I mean, I kind of like. Well, I love me personally, I love the crazy player introductions. I
Yeah.
think that's such a. So it's like a lot of NBA fans, they want their cake and they want their cake and to eat it too, and that's just you kind of got to pick to an extent. You kind of got to pick what you want. Do you want a competitive basketball game? Because if you're gonna get a competitive basketball game, it sounds like it's gonna come at the cost of the entertainment aspect of the situation, and that's why I'm skeptical, but I'm interested to see how going back to this format and seeing if the game's actually competitive this year to see if they have stuff to build on for the future.
Yeah, I mean, another random thought that I just had, I think it would be kind of interesting if they tied in the mid-season tournament with the All-Star weekend so far. Even if it was the championship game during All-Star weekend, that might be a cool way to just increase engagement and have some high-quality
Mm-hmm.
basketball. I know you'll have some people say, well, those teams won't get as long of a break as, the teams that aren't playing, but maybe extend the weekend a little bit or extend the week so those teams have rest. But anyway, I'd like that they are at least willing to try and to see what
Mm-hmm.
works and what doesn't. So
That's what
we'll
that's
see.
what I will that's what I will say is that out of all the major sports, I think Adam Silver has to be my favorite commissioner. That he's it's not just his All Star games. you always hear him talking about, trying to make the game better and trying to do things, to help out the players. And so I think personally think he's the best commissioner in pro sports.
Yeah, there's people that have been saying over the last few years that you could argue he's one of the great commissioners of any sport of all time, which is, I can't really judge that. I haven't been able to see through every single commissioner. I think it's hard to judge that, but there's been a lot that he's done from a business standpoint. The NBA is one of the most profitable leagues and has seen increased viewership compared to baseball, which is dying. The NFL, which has kind of been up and down a little bit. Of course, it's still one of the number one sport in the US, but the NBA is the only sport that's consistently seen a rise in viewership. And when you look at some of what he's done with like TV media deals and bringing more money to the league, he's been very innovative. So I always respect what he does. And at the same time, he's been able to increase business, but still have the players' best interests in mind too, which is really hard. You'd think you'd have to pick one side or another, but he's been really good at playing that middle line, which is quite impressive. So
yeah, I mean, before we might just briefly talk about we kind of talked about everything surrounding the All-Star game, but the actual players and the actual how the voting turned
irrelevant.
out. I mean, it seems like it. I mean, that it's a whole thing, the All-Star game. But what do you have any thoughts in general about this? I mean, I know because this is the second round of voting that's come out, and I think the only change I noticed was Trae Young leaped Damian Lillard for the one of the starting spots in the East. But I mean, like I said, no shock that Giannis and LeBron again. Now here's the thing. Let's just pretend. Let's take the 2 guards and the 3 front court, which is another. There should be a traditional center spot, but that's an argument for a different day. Let's take the 5 players in the East. So it would be Halliburton and Trae Young, and then Giannis, Embiid, Tatum. Those 5 versus Luka, Steph, LeBron, Jokic, Durant. Who's 7-game series?
Oh gosh, that's really tough. I mean, defensively, I feel like the East would be a little better with Giannis and Joel Embiid, but I feel like the backcourt with Luka and Steph Curry and that experience over Trae Young and Tyrese Halliburton is a lot. But it would be a really good series.
That's
honestly.
That's the whole thing though with the All-Star game. If you realize their league is full of talented elite players. It's like 100%. Jesus, like that'd be a dream. But all right, what do we got? What do we got next on the docket?
Next, we have a guy who is currently 8th among guards for the NBA All-Star Eastern Conference. That's Lamelo Ball, who made his return this week. He's only played 17 games, and he's 8th among guards in the voting right now. So good for him. He's a popular guy, but he made his return this week, and I know this is one of your boys. So how you feeling with Lamelo back?
I mean, I'm ecstatic. Us just say what you will about him. I think he's one of those marketable young stars. I mean, the game itself is it's better when LaMelo's playing. He's just, he's a guy that you're going to the game to see. You're going to the game to see LaMelo. I've seen him once when he was in Milwaukee, his rookie season. So, I mean, he's just. I mean, in terms of the NBA landscape, it doesn't really matter because the Hornets suck, and LaMelo Ball isn't going to change the fact that they suck. But I mean, I just think it's better. The NBA is just better when guys like him are playing. And minor victory for him. I don't know if you heard, but they're removing the ban of the tattoo. But he has a tattoo of some sort that the NBA previously banned that they're removing the ban of. So
Yeah, right below his ear is an LF,
yeah.
which is his first and middle initial. And that's personal branding, which you can't have while you're on the court because they have lovely sponsors that pay lots of money to be on players' jerseys. So they did remove that, though.
Big. I just had to throw. We didn't talk about him at all in the last episode, and I just had to throw him in there.
You felt like we were missing an opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's important, even if the Hornets aren't going to be good. As you mentioned, of course, he is a marketable player, and he is offensively fun to watch. I just had to throw in the offensively just to make a snide comment at him.
He had
a little
5
bit.
steals last game.
Yeah, that's something. But I do think it's important with a young team like that to start building momentum. So this is a young core. Him and Brandon Miller haven't played a lot of games together, and if that's going to be a core of their franchise moving forward, even if they're not winning games, you just want to see those guys build rapport so that it leads to more success down the line. And I was curious to see because he's missed a lot of time since he's been in the NBA. So I was curious to see what the Hornets record was with and without him. So I got some numbers to throw around here, which is always fun. Right. I do have to mention that as of this recording, they are 0-2 since he's returned, and they lost by 36 points to the Spurs, which is an embarrassment this season. So got to throw that in there. But all time since his rookie season, they've played 94 games without him. And I can't believe this is already his 4th year in the league. Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, right?
But they're 31-63 all time without him, which is a 32.9% win percentage. And then all time they're with Lamelo, they're 80-99, which is a 44.5 win percentage. So it's over 10% higher when he's on the court. So it's good for the Hornets as well. I will know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he meshes with Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller played really well since LaMelo's been gone, and he's gotten better and better. He's averaged 16 points, and he's shooting 42.5% from 3 since LaMelo's been out. So he made some huge strides. So it'll be cool to see them together. And, I don't think Brandon Miller, as he is right now, is a number 2 on a strong playoff contender. But if the Hornets keep playing the way they're playing right now, they'll have a high pick to try to find that superstar next to LaMelo.
They're only like 8 games out of the play-in, okay?
Only 8. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If they make it, then I will get a tattoo of a Hornets logo on my forehead if they make the playoffs.
All right.
There's what I'm willing to throw out there. All right. Up next is the NBA draft, which there was an announced change this week. Historically, rounds 1 and 2 have been crammed all together in one day, and they're spreading it out amongst 2 days to spread out the fun. What do you think about that, Caveman?
I mean, so me personally, I think I'm fine with it. I mean, I kind of, it kind of, makes it more of a spectacle, kind of following the NFL format, which is they have 7 rounds, so that's spread over like 3 or 4 days, I think. But I mean, I get a lot of people saying that it just seems like a way for the NBA to grab more money.
Definitely.
Seems like a money play. And I get that. You got 2 days, so you got 2 nights of TV, 2 nights of money. But I do like it. I do like it based on the fact because it's gonna feel less crammed. Basic, you're fitting like 2 rounds into was it 60 picks, not 62. I remember from last episode it's 30 teams, not 32 teams. But you're allowing, and I like it because it's gonna give more chance to like talk about the players and how the analysts think they fit into the teams and all that, previewing who the next team is going to pick. It gives more time for that. And I think it kind of gives people a better understanding of who's coming into the league. I think that's a good thing to kind of widen the knowledge of the NBA fans.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is for money. I mean, it's not really going to hurt the fan experience at all. I mean, if you're actually closely paying attention to the second round of the NBA draft, you're lying because you're not. That's just the reality is that.
Hey, Jokic was picked in the second round.
I mean, there's been plenty of good second round picks, but nobody's actively engaging. If you want to make this exciting, they should have a pickup game with the players as they're being picked. That would be cool. As the top 10 are picked, have them play 5-on-5 so we can see the top 10 picks play in a pickup game. I mean, seriously, though, I don't know. The drafts, and I'm a big NFL draft fan too, they're not that exciting. I would love to find a way to make it more exciting like that. And logistically, nobody would ever want to make something like that happen because the players are there to, celebrate and not necessarily play. But if they want more viewership to drive more business, they have to do something to make it more exciting because NBA draft round 1 and round 2, for that matter, are more for intense fans. I don't think many casual fans are tuning in. So if you do want casual fans to tune in, you got to do something to make it more exciting. So there's my recommendation, NBA. Make it more exciting. Make them play a pickup game live as soon as they get picked and make it super exciting. But yeah. Let's see. We couldn't go an episode without talking about the dang Warriors. So let's talk about the state of the Warriors. As we're recording right now, Draymond is playing in his first game back, and the Warriors are down in the fourth quarter right now to the Grizzlies with about 5 minutes remaining. So maybe if you talk long enough, this game will be over, so I can just add some, really slighting the Warriors a little more. I'll add some rude comments in the end if they end up losing.
Yeah. I mean, this is more about, this is kind of a weird. We're in a weird state with the Warriors right now. When you got guys like Steph, and Clay, who I don't know what he just. This is a shell of a guy that once dropped 37 points in a quarter. Like, I don't know where that guy is, but I have belief that Clay can still find some version of that guy, but they got Steph and Clay, and I really I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but the rookie they got put Brandon something, okay?
Yeah.
It's a weird last name. But I've really he's actually been playing really solid. Has stepped in for when Curry's missed time. They kind of slid him into the starting lineup, and he's been doing some things. But yeah, I think the Warriors have to take a look at, they got specifically Kuminga and Moody, who they're both very puzzling cases for different reasons. Kuminga plays really well, and then he gets benched and doesn't play in the fourth quarter. That game's still, but I still don't get that. And then Moody, I've seen flashes from him when he's been on the court, but the problem is Moody just is barely on the court.
Yeah.
And I'm not really quite understanding that, especially when Steph isn't getting any younger. Clay isn't getting any younger. Don't know how long Wiggins is going to be around. Like, you would think that they'd be starting to give a little bit of time to these young guys while they still have their core that are going to play their minutes and they're going to compete, every night when they're all healthy. But when you got guys like Kuminga saying he doesn't believe in Steve Kerr anymore, and Moody wants to get traded, it's a weird dynamic, and I don't know really what to make of this situation in general here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you look at it, though. So, I mean, they're on a slide. They're 3-7 over their last 10 games. When you look at those games, a lot of tough games. I mean, we're talking losing to the Nuggets twice and playing some of the top teams in the East. So, it hasn't been necessarily an embarrassment, that slide right now. But with all this said and all the struggles, they're only one game out of 10th place right now and playing in the play-in tournament.
Oh, they're going to make the play-in. There's no.
Yeah, probably, but I mean, I agree with you that overall they just need to get these young guys some more playing time. I mean, Moses Moody and Kuminga are still only 21 years old, so it's not, we're not at a time yet where we can say, oh, they're not going to be anything, because they've both shown flashes. I don't think that Moses Moody is going to be a superstar. I think as him more of like a Malik Monk, just like instant energy off the bench. That's what I personally foresee his role and his upside being. But I mean, Kuminga coming out, there's people that thought he could be an absolute superstar in the league, and he's shown some flashes of really having it offensively. And he's averaging 23 minutes a game right now, which has gone up a little bit, but when they just got to mix them in more. I mean, that's the reality. And, I don't think that you're going to see that this season, though, because I think they're a team that's still trying to win. I don't think Steve Kerr's the kind of head coach that's like, hey, we're going to go through a rebuild, guys. I wouldn't be shocked that if the Warriors say, hey, we need to rebuild and start looking forward, if they went in a different direction coach-wise, just because you see with like Bill Belichick, and we talked about it with Pop last time, is not to say the game is past Steve Kerr, but I think it's more so sometimes it's just time for the organization to rebuild and go in a different direction. And Steve Kerr is a championship level coach, and I can't see him wanting to build over again. And that's we'll see. I think there'll be a lot of talk about that as we move into the off season. The Warriors being in a spot where Clay's going to be a free agent this year. Draymond, I can't see him really being with the team much longer. So you're going to be left with Steph. They've talked about moving Andrew Wiggins at the trade deadline. So if they end up moving Wiggins at the deadline, I think that's going to say quite a bit about the future, because it's feasible that at the end of the season, you're going to have Steph Curry and a bunch of young guys. So we'll see what the future holds for them. But it's starting to inch closer and closer towards a rebuild. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was an amazing dynasty. The dynasty days are over. I think they squeezed out one more championship when they snuck into the playoffs than most people were expecting them to. So it was a good run.
Oh yeah, and actually, I was when you brought up Draymond Green, I wanted to look at his contract. He's actually signed. He has he got that extension. So he's gonna be there. He signed a 4-year $100 million extension. So you're the Warriors. You're kind of locked into Draymond.
Draymond, Steph, and a bunch of young guys, I guess.
So I mean, but that's also another point. Is I mean, he's back now, but I'm not sold that Draymond's gonna end up wanting to play 3 more seasons. So it's Steph's gonna be kind of, you can't feel bad for. I'm sorry, I'd like the Warriors, but you can't feel bad for the Warriors. There's just they've had all this success and multiple championships, and it's kind of like you can't feel bad for what the Patriots are going through right now either.
Yeah.
Just because like all these championships, all these winning seasons, and I think the point you made about Steve Kerr, I think, first of all, if the Warriors get bounced in the first round of the playoffs this year, we know they're probably not a championship level team this season. But with these players on paper, if they get bounced in the first round, I think the point you made about Steve Kerr becomes a real reality. Not saying that he should be gone or anything. Like, I'm not gonna say that Steve Kerr shouldn't be the Warriors coach next season. But a lot of people, whether it be hardcore NBA fans or just casuals or whatever, I don't think they thought that Kerr handled like the whole Draymond situation well. Even going back to when he punched Jordan Poole last year, Steve Kerr's handling of that kind of came into question a little bit. So it's also a situation. While I understand that they don't want to move on from Kuminga and Moody or combination or not, it's the fact that Steve Kerr's kind of losing the locker room a little bit, is what people are saying by how little he's using. And even what the damning piece of evidence was if you watch that after that game where Kuminga sat in the fourth quarter and they interviewed Steph afterwards. Steph looked down at the sheet, it was like, I'm not sure what his exact quotes are, but something around the lines of, yeah, he should have played. So, we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping for the best for the Warriors. I mean, they're I guess you call them my second team, but which is okay. I think it's okay to have two teams as long as the two teams aren't rivals.
That's fair.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I have teams like that throughout the entire league. Like, I'm a big Rams fan, but I always cheer for the Ravens because I love Lamar. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having other teams that you kind of root for. So, yeah, I agree with you. I know some people get very defensive about that. Like, you can't have a second favorite team. It's like, I wouldn't even call, like, the Ravens my second favorite team, but I root for them to do well.
I understand. Like, you can't be a Packer and a Bears fan. You can't be.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
see, you can't be fans of the rivals.
Never ever. All right. I think the last thing we have on our list here is Mr. Dwayne Wade. It was announced by the Miami Heat that he's going to be getting a statue in front of their arena sometime this fall. They haven't announced the exact date yet. Were you a big Dwayne Wade guy, Caveman?
I think that was you, man. I think Dwayne Wade was kind of. That's why I threw this in there for you. I mean, as a basketball fan, I love kind of Dwayne Wade. Growing up, I mean, he was, got into basketball big, and especially watching it in high school. And Dwayne Wade was a premier player in the league. I mean, think about the career. Think about the career he had. I mean, you're talking about not even talking about the big three where they won. They won championships with LeBron and Bosh, but you got to think back to when he won that title with Shaq, and then even it was nice seeing him at the end, even though he was a shell of himself. Seeing him went with one last hurrah with the Bulls, I believe, at the end. So, well deserved. I'd say he's gonna go down, in my opinion, as a top 5 shooting guard of all time. I think after Kobe, you can make an argument that Wade can be as high as second after. I mean, if you can make the argument, I wouldn't, but you can make the argument that after Kobe, it's it could be Wade. So well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Wade is the reason for me personally that I got into basketball in the first place. One of my earliest memories of watching basketball was when he made his Final Four run with Marquette, and I just happened to be watching that March Madness, and I was like, who is that guy? And I just loved following from there on out, and obviously he had a lot of success in the NBA as well. I grew up a Miami Heat fan pretty much my entire life, and I actually jumped ship when LeBron came because I've never liked LeBron, and I was like, I can't root for a team that and I could tell you the specific reason why I jumped ship, because in the beginning I was like, yeah, whatever, LeBron's here, it's fine. I've always been a Miami Heat fan. Yeah, well, I've
Not
always
one,
loved.
not two, not three.
Yeah, not even that, but it was actually they played the Mavericks in the NBA Finals that year, and Dirk was dealing with an illness, and Dwayne Wade in an interview just mocked Dirk, and it made me so angry because Dwayne Wade for the first half of his career was such like a humble, quiet guy. And then when LeBron came to Miami, like the kind of toolsy side of Dwayne Wade came out, and I'm like, I can't be here to witness this anymore. So I'd always rooted for the Spurs. I was kind of 1A and 1B for me growing up. I have some family that's a big Spurs fan, but I loved watching Dwayne Wade. But I completely jumped ship when LeBron came because Dwayne Wade started getting very cocky and he mocked Dirk, and nobody mocks Dirk. Dirk deserves respect. So that's why they lost the NBA Finals, because they mocked Dirk and they got what they deserved. But yeah, I mean, he's a Miami Heat legend. He's an NBA legend. He's done a lot of great stuff off the court too, which is one of the things that I've always respected and liked about him. But the three people that kind of got me into sports were Dwayne Wade and the NBA, David Wright in baseball, and then Torrey Holt in the NFL. So those are kind of my three core guys, and the reason why I talk about sports so much. So thanks, Dwayne Wade, for wasting so much of my time, making me and distracting me from doing my work. Anything else you want to talk about, Caveman? Anything else on your mind?
Not really. Other side, nothing really of note is really nothing else of note that we haven't discussed is really happened. Like we said, the All-Star game is approaching. So, other than that, I'm excited to see who ends up getting selected for the starters and whatnot. But no, I'm just excited. We got hopefully within the next week or so should have some clips posted up on TikTok. So we got that to look forward to. Gotta try to learn something for the first time in a while. It's I haven't had to learn anything in a while. So yeah, but other than that, just excited. I'm just excited to watch basketball, man. I mean, football's almost over with. Season for me has been over since week 2 in the NFL, so But yeah, I'm just excited to this is prime. This is the meat and potatoes of the season is right now. So it's an exciting time of the year.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And then, right around the corner, you have spring training. If you're a hockey fan, hockey's in full swing. So this is always an interesting. Canada. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big hockey guy either, but you have hockey, you have NBA, you have the NFL playoffs, you have spring training around the corner. This is always a fun time of year. So yeah, make sure you follow us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Throw us a like if you don't mind as well, and more to come in the upcoming weeks.
Mm-hmm.